I've been trying to figure out how to start this story in a way that doesn't make me look completely foolish, but maybe that's impossible. Maybe the truth always has a way of making us look a little naive. And you know what? That's fine. At least it's honest. Funny enough, as I say this, I'm looking at the half-cold coffee I forgot on the counter this morning again. I always do that. But on the day everything started falling apart, I remember finishing that coffee. Every single drop. I don't know why that detail matters, but my mind insists on remembering it. I always thought my marriage was predictable in a comforting way. We had our routines, our habits, our little phrases we repeated so often that they lost meaning but never warmth. At least that's what I believed. And for years I told myself that the quiet was peace, not distance. That the pauses in his affection were caused by stress, not secrets. In hindsight, the signs were everywhere. They weren't even subtle. I just wasn't ready to see them. I met my husband, Daniel, when I was 26. I'd like to say it was something out of a movie, but it wasn't. It was a rainy Thursday, one of those days where you feel like life is giving you signs, even if you don't know what they mean. I dropped my umbrella in front of a little cafe, and he grabbed it before it hit the ground. He smiled and it was warm. That's the only way to describe it. Warm enough that it made me forget how cold the rain was. I guess that was the moment I decided he was safe. I didn't know yet that warmth can hide fire just as easily as it can hide kindness. Our relationship grew quickly. Too quickly, maybe. I was at a point in my life where stability felt like oxygen. My childhood had been full of chaos. My father leaving, my mother working double shifts, the always looming fear that something would go wrong. I promised myself that when I grew up, I would build a life where everything finally made sense. Daniel felt like that life. He was steady, calm, patient. He said all the right things and I didn't question why he knew them so well. He made me feel chosen. And someone who grew up feeling abandoned carries a hunger that people like him can sense from miles away. Looking back now, it's clear. Daniel wasn't stable. He was rehearsed. Things were good for a long time. Good enough that the cracks seemed like normal marriage flaws. He traveled sometimes, but his job required it. He was tired, but work was demanding. He got distant, but who doesn't after years together? I repeated these excuses like prayers. The first real sign, at least the first one I couldn't ignore, came wrapped in something incredibly ordinary. A scent. Perfume. Not on him, but in his car. I almost laughed at how cliché it was. It wasn't even a subtle scent. It was the kind of floral perfume that lingers like a ghost. One that doesn't belong to someone just passing by. When I asked him about it, he said a colleague had borrowed his car for a few hours. He even pretended to be irritated by it. He was so believable. His voice slightly annoyed, brow furrowed. He even kissed my forehead afterward, like a punctuation mark to his lie. I let it go. I shouldn't have, but I wasn't ready yet. The second sign was a receipt. A simple restaurant receipt folded inside the pocket of his jacket. The date matched a night he said he was out of town. The meal was for 3 people. When I asked who he ate with, he said clients. That the company paid. That he didn't remember exactly who was there. Again rehearsed. Smooth. Certain. But the third sign broke everything open. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was a voice. One I wasn't supposed to hear. Daniel had left his phone on the kitchen table, something he never did, while taking a shower. His phone buzzed twice and I swear I wasn't going to look. I really wasn't. But when I saw the notification preview, my heart stopped. A child's voice note. A child I didn't know. A little girl saying, "Daddy, are you coming tomorrow? Mommy said you promised." I felt the floor shift under my feet. Not metaphorically. Physically. My body reacted before my mind did. I remember grabbing the edge of the counter to stay upright. For a few seconds I couldn't even breathe. I replayed it. Then again. And again. Like my brain refused to process it fully. Daddy. Promise. Mommy. Each word stabbed a different part of me. I didn't confront him immediately. If there's anything my childhood taught me, it's that reacting fast is the easiest way to lose control. And for the first time in my life, I wanted control more than I wanted answers. I pretended everything was normal when he came out of the shower. I asked about dinner. I laughed at a joke he made. I even kissed him goodnight. I think that was the moment I became someone else, someone colder, sharper, clearer. someone I didn't know I was capable of being. At midnight, when he fell asleep, I took his phone again. I didn't need the passcode. I knew it. Of course I knew it. It was the same code he used for everything. There were messages, photos, a woman, 2 kids, a house, a whole parallel life. He called them my sunshine, my loves, my everything. Words he used to say to me. I wasn't crying. Not yet. I was somewhere beyond crying. In a place where your heart is too stunned to bleed. And then I saw the oldest message thread. 7 years. 7 years of conversations. 7 years of lies. 7 years of him building another family while sleeping next to me every night. I closed the phone, placed it exactly where I found it, and walked to the bathroom. I locked the door, sat on the floor, and stared at the wall for, I don't know, an hour? Maybe 2. It felt like my bones were dissolving, like I wasn't a person anymore. Just a shell holding pain. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. But I remember whispering something over and over. Why wasn't I enough? The question kids who grow up with abandonment never stop asking. The next morning I woke up before him. I made breakfast. Toast, eggs, fruit. I even brewed his favorite coffee. He looked at me and smiled like nothing was wrong. Like I wasn't dying inside. Like he wasn't living 2 lives. That was the moment I realized something. He didn't just betray me. He underestimated me. And that was unforgivable. I told him I had errands. Kissed him goodbye. I left the house holding my trembling hands tightly in my pockets. I drove for hours with no destination. At one point, I pulled over near a quiet viewpoint overlooking the city. I sat there staring at the skyline, thinking about who I wanted to be next. Not the broken wife. Not the naive girl. Not the victim. No, I wanted to be someone he would never see coming. Someone who wouldn't destroy him in anger, but with precision. Someone who wouldn't simply leave him. Someone who would make him face himself. I didn't want revenge that satisfied me. I wanted revenge that changed everything. The first step was information. I needed to know who this other woman was, who the children were, where they lived. Because here's the thing most people don't understand. You can't tear down someone's lies unless you understand the architecture of their delusion. I started with social media. I found her quickly. Her name was Marissa. She was beautiful in a soft, natural way. The kind of beauty that didn't try to impress you but still did. I hated her instantly. Not because she existed, but because she didn't know. Her posts were innocent. Family outings. Homemade meals. Kids' birthday parties. Daniel smiling in the background of several photos. The smile he rarely gave me anymore. Her captions were full of gratitude and hope. The kind of words a woman writes when she believes she's loved deeply. I couldn't hate her after that. Her oldest child looked about 7. My stomach turned when I did the math. 7 years. 7. The same timeline. My mind kept repeating that number until it felt like a curse. I needed to see them in person. Not to confront them, that would come later in a way that mattered, but to understand who they were. So a week later, after pretending everything was normal at home, kissing Daniel goodnight, laughing at his jokes, I drove to their neighborhood. I parked far from their house. I watched from a distance. I saw the kids playing in the yard. I saw her carrying groceries inside. I saw a family that looked stable, happy, loved. And it made me wonder something that crushed me more than the betrayal itself. Did he love them more? Was I the life he settled for? Was I the mistake? But I didn't cry. I didn't break. Pain makes you think differently. It sharpens you. It teaches you to silence certain parts of yourself so others can rise. I went back 3 more times that month. Not every day, Daniel would notice, but enough to observe patterns. What time he visited them. What lies he told me. What lies he told them. He was different there. Softer. More affectionate. Almost genuine. I saw him carry his daughter on his shoulders, spin her around, kiss her forehead. I saw him help his son build a wooden fort in the yard. I saw him look at their mother with a tenderness I hadn't felt in years. And for a moment, a long, humiliating moment, I wondered if I was the problem. But then I noticed something else. Something so subtle and yet so revealing that it changed everything. He never stayed long. He always left abruptly. He always looked over his shoulder. He always seemed afraid. That was when I realized it. He wasn't living a double life because he loved two families. He was living a double life because he feared being truly known by anyone. He lied not to protect love, but to protect himself. And suddenly, I wasn't sad anymore. I was angry. Very, very angry. But anger wasn't my weapon. Not yet. Not until I understood exactly what I was dealing with. And soon I noticed something deeper, something darker, something he had hidden even from her. His finances were inconsistent. His schedule didn't match the places he claimed to be. There were documents in his office drawer that didn't align with the identity he used with us. His business trips weren't business trips. His clients didn't exist. Slowly, painfully, the truth unraveled. Daniel wasn't just lying about another family. He was lying about who he was. I knew then that my revenge couldn't be something childish like exposing him or screaming at him. No, I wanted to dismantle the foundation of the world he built. Piece by careful piece. Quietly. Elegantly. Thoroughly. The kind of revenge that doesn't just hurt. It enlightens. Frees. It transforms. And I wasn't doing it just for me. Or for the other woman. Or for the children. I was doing it because I finally saw the truth. Men like Daniel don't break you because they're strong. They break you because you don't know your own strength yet. And I was about to discover mine. But before any plan could unfold, I needed to look him in the eyes again. Not as his wife, not as his victim, but as the woman he would never see coming. That moment came sooner than I expected. It was a Tuesday night. He walked through the door looking tired, annoyed, distracted. He kissed my cheek without actually touching it, something he often did when he forgot what intimacy was supposed to feel like. But then he said something that shifted everything inside me. I might be gone this weekend. Another work thing. I smiled. I nodded. I even touched his arm gently. But inside, I laughed. Work thing. Right. He didn't know that in just a few days, everything he believed he controlled would start slipping right through his fingers. And the best part? He would never suspect me. I sat beside him on the couch, pretending to watch TV, pretending to be the woman he thought could never hurt him. But inside, I was planning the end of his lies. Every detail, every step, every consequence. And I wasn't doing it in anger. I was doing it in clarity, because revenge isn't about rage. It's about justice wrapped in strategy. And my revenge would go much deeper than anything he had ever done to me. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear or sadness, but because of clarity. Real clarity makes the world feel strangely sharp. Even the sound of the refrigerator humming felt louder, more intentional. I lay there thinking about every moment in my marriage, every smile Daniel had rehearsed, every lie he had practiced, every time he had made me feel like I was losing him for reasons I blamed on myself. Funny how betrayal doesn't just hurt. It reorganizes everything you thought you knew about your own life. The next morning, I woke up determined. I made breakfast like I always did, but this time every movement had purpose. When Daniel walked into the kitchen, he looked at me with suspicion, not enough to question me, but enough that I could sense a shift. Maybe he felt something in me had changed. Maybe liars have an instinct about the moment the truth starts breathing. He kissed my forehead, said he'd be home late, and walked out the door with the same lie he always carried. I watched him leave, and for the first time I wasn't the one left behind. He just didn't know it yet. My first move wasn't dramatic or loud. It was quiet, precise. I went to a small cafe across town, one I knew he would never step into. I brought my laptop and opened files he didn't know I had duplicated. Financial statements, contracts, emails, transfers. Patterns were everywhere. Illegal patterns, hidden accounts, shell companies, fake invoices. It didn't take me long to understand the core of it. Daniel wasn't just living a double family life. He was living a double financial life too. And he needed both families to maintain the illusion of stability. He wasn't cheating because he loved someone else. He was cheating because juggling lies made him feel powerful. Power is a fragile addiction. It cracks when someone holds a mirror up. For days I observed everything. I tracked his calls. I followed his social media trails. I visited the other family again, always from a distance, always careful. The children's laughter pierced me in ways I can't explain. They were innocent. Marissa was innocent. None of us deserved the pain he would inevitably bring. I started thinking, what if my revenge wasn't about punishing him, but liberating everyone he held captive through deception? That's when the real plan formed. It began with a visit to a therapist. Not for help, but for documentation. I told her what I'd discovered, calmly, rationally. She listened, took notes, validated my emotional state. I needed that record for the storm I was preparing. Then I met with a lawyer. Not to file for divorce, not yet. I needed information. I asked about financial leverage, asset freezes, custody implications, even though we had no children, and the best strategies to protect someone who was being emotionally manipulated without triggering retaliation. He asked for evidence. I had more than enough, but I wasn't ready to act. Not until I understood everything. And the more I learned, the more I realized something chilling. Marissa had no idea who Daniel really was. She thought he was a widower. Yes, a widower. He told her his wife had died years ago. I remember reading that message over and over, my stomach twisting. He had turned me into a ghost in his other life. A ghost. The level of cruelty. It shifted something inside me. This wasn't betrayal anymore. This was annihilation. I wasn't seeking revenge anymore. I was seeking resurrection. My own. I needed to talk to her. Not woman to woman. Not rival to rival. But human to human. Someone had to break this cycle before Daniel pulled more people into his web. So I approached her carefully. One afternoon, while Daniel thought I was at a weekend retreat with friends, I walked up to her house. My hands were shaking so much I had to hide them in my pockets. She opened the door halfway, holding a dish towel, looking confused. I introduced myself. She didn't recognize my name. When I said, "I'm Daniel's wife," she went pale, so pale I thought she might faint. She laughed nervously at first, thinking it was a joke. But the moment she saw my eyes, she knew. Some truths are too heavy to misunderstand. We didn't speak in the doorway. She invited me inside, moving like someone underwater. Her living room was warm, full of family photos, children's drawings, little signs of normal life. A life she thought she knew. Standing there felt surreal, like stepping into a version of my own life where I had been replaced. She sat down slowly. I sat across from her. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, "He told me you were dead." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But something deep in me cracked. Not painfully, almost peacefully. Because in that moment, I understood something profound. The lies he told me weren't personal. The lies he told her weren't personal. He lied to everyone because he feared being genuinely known. And people like that only survive as long as no one compares stories. We talked for hours. She wasn't angry at me, and I wasn't angry at her. We were two women holding different pieces of the same broken mirror. When I told her about the finances, the fake identities, the shell companies, she looked horrified. There were things she didn't know. Things he hid from her too. Things that put her at risk. At one point, her daughter ran into the room laughing, holding a toy. She stopped when she saw me, shy but curious. That innocence, it anchored me. That child deserved a mother who wasn't living a lie. When I left that house, I didn't leave alone. I left with an ally. Not in revenge, but in truth. The following days were a blur of coordination. Quiet, discreet meetings. Lawyers consulted. Documents copied. Accounts frozen. Marissa and I communicated through an encrypted app, the kind used by whistleblowers. She sent me things Daniel had given her. I sent her things he had given me. Piece by piece, we dismantled the world he built. We learned his real name wasn't even Daniel. He had 2 aliases, 2 sets of IDs, 2 financial histories. But we still hadn't seen the whole picture. Not until the night everything finally collapsed. It was a Friday. He thought he was visiting Marissa. But she wasn't home. She was with me. We sat in my car a block away, watching him walk to her door with flowers. Flowers he had bought using my credit card. He knocked. No answer. He called her. No answer. He looked uneasy, checking over his shoulder. And that's when the police car turned the corner. He froze. That was the first moment I had ever seen genuine fear in his eyes. The officers approached him calmly. They asked his name. He gave them one of his aliases. They asked for ID. He hesitated. They arrested him gently but firmly. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt release. Because revenge wasn't watching him fall. Revenge was realizing I didn't need him to fall to rise. Marissa watched too, silent, her hands trembling. When the police car drove away, she leaned back and cried. Not for him, but for the years she lost. Years I had lost too. We drove to my house afterward. We talked until morning. Two women rebuilding themselves in the middle of the rubble a man created. Over the next weeks, everything unfolded in painfully slow fashion. Investigations, charges, lawyers, statements, financial audits. He tried calling us both from custody, but neither of us answered. There are wounds that don't need reopening. The truth spread quickly. His co-workers learned his real identity. His extended family, what little he had left, discovered the lies he'd told for decades. And for the first time, he didn't have another story to hide behind. As for me, I filed for divorce. It wasn't joyful, it was necessary. A severing of something that had stopped living long before I realized it. In the months that followed, I didn't magically heal. Healing isn't magic. It's quiet, raw, inconvenient. Some mornings I woke up shaking. Some nights I'd catch myself checking my phone, expecting lies disguised as messages. But slowly, very slowly, I started breathing again. I began therapy. I traveled alone for the first time. I reconnected with parts of myself I had buried under compromise. One morning, I visited the same viewpoint where I had once parked my car in confusion and heartbreak. The skyline looked different this time. Softer, less threatening. Like the city had exhaled with me. Marissa sent me updates from time to time. She moved, got a better job, created a safe home for her kids. Sometimes she thanked me, but I always told her the same thing. She saved herself. I just held up a mirror. Daniel was sentenced for fraud and identity crimes. Not because I sought his destruction, but because truth eventually catches up to those who run from themselves. I've thought a lot about whether what I did counts as revenge. Maybe it was. But if it was, it wasn't the kind that poisons you. It was the kind that frees you. People always assume revenge is fire. But mine wasn't. Mine was light. Light that exposed. Light that clarified. Light that ended the darkness he created. And now when I tell this story, and I don't tell it often, I don't tell it with bitterness. I tell it with certainty. Because losing someone who never really existed isn't a loss. It's a beginning. Some days when I'm cooking or cleaning or doing something painfully ordinary, I catch myself thinking about how strange life is. How a single truth can burn your world down and still leave you warmer than before. Funny enough, I still forget my coffee on the counter. That habit never changed. I'm looking at one right now, actually ice cold, untouched. It's almost comforting in its consistency. But I don't mind anymore. Because I'm not living someone else's script. I'm living mine. Finally. And maybe that's the deepest revenge of all.